So I was giving a speech to a group of people called Spiritual Frontiers Foundation. They have a conference once a year to talk about how we can evolve our society spiritually. Very committed, dedicated people. I'm in the middle of the speech and explaining that the Department of Justice in 1999 had told a reporter I was working with that the U.S. economy launders $500 billion to $1 trillion a year of all dirty money. So not just narcotics trafficking, but illegal gambling, tax evasion, financial fraud, everything. Okay, now with the financial fraud, it's much bigger. But at that time, $500 billion to $1 trillion. So I said to this wonderfully spiritual, evolved audience, if you could push a red button to stop all hard narcotics trafficking in your community, your neighborhood, your country tomorrow, thus offending the people who control all this money, who here would push the button? Out of 100 people, only one would push the button. I said, why would you not push the button? They said, we don't want our mutual funds to go down. We don't want our government checks to stop.
But see, that's the scam. Justice be done. May the heavens fall. I mean, all of these parasitic systems cost more than they make, and they're wrong.
Right. And so what it's going to come down to is we've seen the Fed monetize the whole Treasury and mortgage market last year. And so you can't keep monetizing at this rate. And so now the day has come where the bell is ringing and saying, we can't get free money forever anymore, so something's got to give, and we've got to change. And those changes are going to happen, Alex, in the places where our governors, our attorney generals, and our sheriffs can come together, assert 10th Amendment right, and now we're all going to have to support them in re-engineering the economic flows. But when it comes out the other side of the sausage maker, we're all going to have to be a lot more productive.
Well, it is true that half the population is on some form of government dole or payment or job, and the government's only getting more aggressive, more parasitic, more militarized.
Right.
And what the cops and the bureaucrats don't understand is the bankers have already moved offshore. They're literally for 3 years been buying homes offshore. They believe they're probably going to lose control, but they've already run off with the bag of money.
Right. And that's why this Geithner, I think it is very, very important. I said in my year-end wrap-up, which I called the year of the giant vampire squid, the wonderful story from Rolling Stone, declared Goldman Sachs the giant vampire squid. Basically what these guys did, Alex, in the 90s and early 2000s, they moved trillions of dollars out of this country, a lot of it illegal. To do that, they issued massive fraudulent securities and derivatives, and what this bailout did was it refinanced them out of the fraud. And so they have pulled off not only the financial coup d'etat, but pushing the liabilities for the fraudulent securities they issued to do it back onto the taxpayers. And they're pulling their train out of the station and leaving us to grapple.
And they're moving their base of operations to China and openly bad-mouthing America and saying it's not a good place to invest to further depress it so they can buy everything up.
The door is not completely shut. A Geithner investigation and indictment, because we now have, remember, we have Geithner saying, I proposed a deal where I didn't give Goldman Sachs 100 cents on the dollar, and they said they were fully hedged, so they didn't care, and they'd rather see a default, and they'd pick it up on the other side. And we now have the Goldman CEO and chairman saying in testimony today, well, wait a minute, nobody offered me that deal. So one of them has got to be lying. So we now have pitted the Secretary of the Treasury and the chairman of Goldman Sachs, and one has got to be lying. So if you can turn this into, testimony under oath, investigation, you can still open a door and unravel this whole thing. So it is not, it's never, since I'm a big woman, I hate to say it's never over till the fat lady sings, but it's never over till the fat lady sings. So I think you're hammering on the Geithner and a possible Geithner indictment is very, very important, because let me tell you, it is inconceivable to me that that Geithner is not criminally liable for what's happened.
Well, we have to pierce this veil of infallibility and popery, or whatever you want to call it, where the elites just stumble around in fancy suits with SWAT teams around them saying, I will rob this, I will rob that, and everyone just bows down to them. And the image of these criminals being indicted or in trouble like Watergate, but these crimes are a trillion times that literally, could bring them down, just like Copenhagen went down. The whole Copenhagen thing went down in flames. The banks wanting to leverage a new Ponzi scheme on global carbon tax. I mean, on every front, they're in trouble.
Well, do the math. On that one trade, Geithner gave Goldman Sachs $10 billion. Okay? Now, if the average American taxpayer pays $100,000 lifetime, $100,000 of federal taxes in a lifetime, say, how much is $10 billion divided by 100,000? That's how many people are going to work their whole life for that one giveaway by Timmy Geithner. In other words, don't think of it as $10 billion. Think of it as, we got to do the math. Think of it as that many lives. It's slavery. It is. I mean, it's literally slavery. Let me do the math.
And it sets the precedent for even, if we don't stop them now, they're setting up new bubbles, new scams, new frauds.
Right. So if I'm not mistaken, 100,000 people are going to work their entire life to pay the taxes for Geithner to do that. You know, and it's not just, here's the thing, Alex, it's not just Americans, it's people all over the world, because people all over the world are being forced to buy Treasury securities. You know, it's a global taxation system. They buy Treasury securities, the Treasuries go down 5-10% a year, and so they get drained, just like communities all over America being drained. It's global, it's not just in America. And so, you know, here, I mean, people are giving up luxuries, you know, or now necessities to play this game. But, you know, people are losing their lives all over the world because of this drain. So it's not just when you give away $10 billion, you know, say it costs you give away 100,000 tax lives in America, but you're literally giving away lives, you know, around the world. So it's a slavery system engineered through financial means, and it's highly invisible, but I think we're beginning to understand it.
It is a high-tech slavery. We're going to come back and get into more solutions with Catherine Austin Fitts of Solari.com. I agree with her. One of the biggest things we have against the enemy is the states and their rightful power and arresting these criminals.